Hello, I'm Graham Jones and welcome to Channel KT4, broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. You can join in by sending in questions during the show. Just press the comments button on the screen. Don't forget to click the like or share buttons. It's free, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Please click to subscribe. I'm so pleased to welcome to my virtual studio Mark Swan, who's the chairman of the Woodcote Millennium Green Trust. Welcome, Mark, and many thanks for joining me here today on Channel KT4.
Well, thank you, Graham. It's an absolute pleasure to be invited along. I look forward to the next half an hour talking about the Green and the Trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. But before we do talk about it, Mark, have a look at this.
On today's programme, we're talking about the Woodcote Millennium Trust. So I thought I'd do something different, slightly special. So I've come along to the Woodcote Millennium Green to have a look for myself and have a wander around. What a glorious space it is, right next door to Epsom Hospital. And I put together just a little video just to give you some images and to set the scene for today's programme. Enjoy.
What's the saying, Mark? A picture paints 1,000 words.
Indeed it does. Indeed it does. No beautiful shots of the Green. I've never seen it look so good.
I must admit, it did look particularly nice when I was there, and it was great to see so many people enjoying the space, which was really lovely. So, Mark, can you tell me and tell our viewers a little bit about the history of the Green and what a Millennium Green actually is?
Right, I'll do my best. Well, the Green itself has been around that location for many hundreds of years. We're going back to 14th, 15th century. It's actually been registered on maps since 1779, when it was owned then by Sir Edward Northey, who owned the Woodcote House, which sits behind the Green to the south. And it was his seat for about 250 years. And then in 1930, the property was bought, the Woodcote House, along with the surrounding land, by a chap called Ernest Harwood. And he was a developer at the time, and he bought the house along with the land and then developed what is now the Woodcote Estate. And the Green sits just to the north of the estate behind the hospital. So what is a Woodcote Millennium Green? Well, back in 1999, the government at the time wanted a way of celebrating the new millennia. So what they did was to encourage communities up and down the country, it's a nationwide thing, to set aside pieces of land, whether it was a metre square or several acres, which is what this is, about 5.5 acres, where everybody could access it 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in perpetuity. So back in 1999, the Harwood family donated the balance of the land that they owned, which they hadn't developed, to the trust, gave it completely free. The trust was then set up and is now run by local volunteers and residents, a form of trustees, and we've run it for the last 21 years with the help of volunteers from all walks of life, whether doctors and nurses, as Graham mentioned earlier, that use the Green a lot, through to young children with their grandparents, own parents, whether it's litter picking, clearing ditches, helping clearing weeds, cutting grass, trimming back bushes, the whole gambit, if you like. And it's created a great community spirit.
That's thanks for that, Mark. That's a good summary of it. I believe actually, Mark, there's over 225 Millennium Greens in the UK.
You're quite right. There are, in fact, 250, and the Millennium Green in Epsom is the only one in Surrey.
Oh wow! I didn't realise that. Okay. Now, when I was there, Mark, I saw on my visit some notices about volunteer days. I think you're calling them maintenance days. It's helping people obviously maintain the green. So the question to you, and I've got a nice picture I'm going to show you of them as well, is if somebody wants to be a volunteer at the green, how do they do that? Here's the picture.
That's a very good question. Through various means. The main point is our website, where you can, if anyone's interested in helping out on the green, whether any maintenance or raising funds and so on, they can access our website and can contact us through info@Woodcote Millennium Green Trust .org.uk, or they can contact me directly on my number, which again is on the website, or any one of the other trustees or friends or relatives that live and help locally.
That's great. So, I mean, how many times a year are these maintenance days?
Typically 2 a year. We have 2 official sessions. Again, they're usually on the newsletter that we send out twice a year on the website. Typically about March time, just as things start to grow, and then again about September time as things start to die back. So we prepare it sort of for the summer and then for the winter. But in the meantime, we have what we call an ad hoc section, where we have a group of volunteers on a WhatsApp app, where if there's a tree falling down or a branch that needs to be removed or something that's happened that needs to be done fairly quickly without having to have an organised event, then someone will send out a message saying, look, tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock, I'm going to be there. I've got this branch that needs to be chopped up. This tree needs to be sawn up. Grass needs to be cut because it's grown exponentially over the last 2 weeks. So that's quite broad. And the reason we set the ad hoc group up is not everybody's available on the dates and the times, which would typically be a Saturday afternoon between 2 and 4. So in order to spread that, we've said, well, join the ad hoc group, which has proved very successful in the meantime.
Yeah, that's really good as well. But I noticed that, of course, this year you did have a maintenance day planned for March, I think it was, going into April. Of course, that was cancelled because of restrictions. And I think your next one is next weekend, is it not? Next Saturday?
Indeed, it is the 19th. It is, yes.
Yeah, the 19th. So, yeah, and I can see that it's looking really nice, Mark, but there's always lots to do. As you said, branches come down and bits need to be done. But it's great work that your volunteers are doing. So a big shout out to your volunteers, and thanks very much, guys, for all the work that you're doing. Now, how do you raise funds, and what's the money spent on, Mark? But most importantly, if somebody wants to donate, how can someone actually make a donation to the Green?
Right, all very good questions. Right, so we raise funds through various means. Literally, it can be someone that says, look, there's a tenner or there's 50 quid cash, or people write us a check, which is, we'll accept that. Or they have set up a standing order and they may contribute £10 a year, £20 a year, 50, whatever their choice is. We've had raised funds via Lloyd's Bank, who have, they do a match funding scheme where if one of their employees works for us for say 3 hours and charges £3 an hour for those 3 hours each, then Lloyd's will double that up, so it becomes £6 an hour, and so on. We raised funds via cake stalls. We had Christmas cards that we printed some years ago to raise funds. We've also been left in a will, a legacy, which helped pay towards the refurbishment of paths a few years ago. And again, when you see our sort code here, please go to our website and get our sort code and bank account and make a contribution as soon as possible. We really need the funds. So where does it go? Well, we spend the money on protective clothing for volunteers, for maintaining the lawnmowers. We have a tractor ride-on lawnmower, which all volunteers use and quite enjoy, to be fair. So that needs to be maintained, it needs to be serviced. We buy gloves for people to use. There's hand tools and equipment that we need to supply. Also, if we have a job that's too big for us, so if a large tree fell over or if a large tree became dangerous, we won't be in a position to do that ourselves. So we have to hire in an arboriculturalist to come and chop it up or make it safe. So that's where the money goes there as well. And also there's public liability insurance, which we need to cover. So it's never ending. There's always expenditure. Whilst we try and do as much work ourselves through our volunteers, relatives, friends, anyone, to keep the costs down, there are still certain costs that we can't avoid, which is frustrating at times, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I can imagine, Mark. And actually, it's only when I talk to people like you that it suddenly becomes very clear as to actually what is required. I mean, we're looking at equipment and clothing, and of course, dreaded liability insurance, Mark. What a pain that is. But I know it's really important, and you've got to cover everybody, and everybody's got to be done. Now, I've been looking on your website and see that you do some wonderful projects as part of the development of the green. And so I'm really keen to know what's coming in the future. But for the moment, let's just stick on the past a little bit. I've got 3 individual pictures, and I'm really interested to know about this. So it's kind of like beginning, middle, and end, Mark, the picture. So here's the beginning of this little project.
Okay.
So tell me something about this.
Right. Well, this is a human sundial. When we originally set up the trust, and we were asked if we could create something that could be used by everyone, but safely, and something that was timeless. So we came up with this human sundial idea, and we got 2 children there as an example of age range. I don't know, there's a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, probably, and an older gentleman, and me in the background. So this is a project that we set aside. This is probably about 2002, I'd say 2003 when we did this, and it's great. It attracts a lot of people, lots of attention, and it's registered with the Sundial Society as well.
Oh, good. Have a look at this next picture. There's a little bit further downstream, dare I say. There we go.
Okay, well, this is a typical maintenance session where we at half time. We shoot typically 2 hours, and then we stop halfway through-ish for about 10 or 15 minutes, have a cup of coffee, cup of tea, orange juice, whatever, sweets or cake for the children and for the adults. And it's a good social event because part of the green, or really the trust, is to create awareness, keep awareness, and build a community. And that's a good example of how it works.
I think that's excellent. And I thought I'd finish this a little bit with your sundial with this lovely picture.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, when you stand on it, you've got the month in the middle. You've got the months January to November, December, and depending on the month, you stand on that month. Put your hand up in the air. If it's a sunny day, it will give you time within about 10 minutes. So within that 10 minutes accuracy, it's pretty good. It's quite good.
Do you know something, Mark? You have just answered a question that I didn't know whether I dare ask, because I was stood there. Let me just put this picture up again. Right, I was stood there on the grass, right, looking at the dial, and I was thinking, I can't see how I'm going to find the time. So I didn't realize that one needs to stand on that central stone slab. You've answered the question. Next time I go there, I'm going to have a go at that, Mark, and see what we can do. Okay, so that's just sorry.
So make sure it's a sunny day when you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will do, Mark. Now, that's a project that's in the past. So have we got anything planned for the future?
Well, you mentioned earlier on, really, pretty much it's ever dynamic, the green. There's always something that needs to be done. We are trying desperately to keep the green to look as naturally as possible. We don't want it to become a park. However, we have a project, but it depends on time and finances and so on, where we would like to increase the variety of trees there. Those that know it will see there's an awful lot of sycamore trees, which, whilst they are deciduous, it's great. We really do need more ash trees, perhaps more beech trees, some more oak trees, some cherry trees, to give a bigger variety of trees there. But it would mean that some of the older sycamore trees would need to be removed professionally, for the ground then to be left to settle for a year or so, and then replanted with some semi-mature oaks and beech and so on. Also, the bridges over the streams that run throughout the green will need to be replaced in the next probably 3 to 4 years. They each on their own are a big project. So then that's another one we'll be working to. And the pond, whilst we had that refurbished 3 or 4 years ago, again, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, 5 to 8 years, we'll need to refurbish that yet again and put a liner underneath. But again, that is all dependent on what funds we can raise. And again, we'll need to get professional advice on that and a professional company in to help dredge that again, take the fish out as they did before, line it with a plastic lining, and then refill it. And then hopefully that'll be the last time it will need to be done for many years to come. But 3 years ago, we didn't have the funds to do that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that is quite a large pond. So that's one big liner. It's huge.
Absolutely, it's huge. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Originally, it was lined with puddling clay, which was back in the 1980s, stop it from drying out. But unfortunately, now you can't use puddling clay. The only way to refurbish a pond like that is to use the line, a proper thick line, like for swimming pools, similar thing.
Yeah, okay. So what's on the green to see and do, and how do the local community benefit from the green itself? I noticed, by the way, a fair amount of NHS staff from Epsom General Hospital, and they were really enjoying a break on the green in the sunshine the other day. It must be a great space for them in particular to relax and enjoy.
I totally agree. The main beneficiaries of the green, just purely by coincidence, are doctors, nurses, hospital patients, and visitors. And as you say, it's a wonderful place to sit and read, or just, especially if you're a visitor or even a doctor or nurse, if you've experienced something pretty unpleasant at work, especially over the last probably year or so with the COVID issue. It's a nice place just to get away from it all, because it's a very peaceful and tranquil part, especially where we have a glade, which is a grassed area in the middle of the green, where in certain times of day and times of year, you can sit down, you just never know that you're right, well, half a mile from a town and 100 yards from a major hospital. So they can benefit from peace and tranquility, exactly as you say. So what's there to do on the green? Well, we've seen people there's yoga, there's people that play badminton, there's youngsters that play cricket, football and cricket in the glade. You can go and sit and read, you can go and lie in the sun when it's sunny, and just go and have a chat with other people, socially distanced, of course. And we all know the benefits of walking in wooded areas and in the sort of countryside, the social benefits, the mental benefits, and the physical benefits. And people can benefit from all of those things. And there's plenty to see. Whilst the green is relatively small, there's still a lot to see. Certainly, your photograph showed earlier, or your film showed earlier, footage of 2 ducks. In fact, they're ducklings that were born earlier this year. And we've just now got another 6 more hen chicks. Ducklings, I think, 6 more that just born only 2 days ago. So there's lots to see. There's the fish in the pond, which if you like fishing, I might not suggest you catch them, but there are some wonderful carp in the pond there, and you often see the heron, as you mentioned earlier, having a go at eating some of our fish. But so there's lots to do, and it's a very positive place to be.
Yeah, I agree, and as I've mentioned before, I really did enjoy spending a couple of hours wandering around the green. And what I saw, you're saying it's fairly small, and I was actually surprised. But when you actually just walk away from the pond, if you've got the road behind you, if you go to the left where there's that tree walkway, lots of people were on the grass area there, and they were sat down having a bit of lunch on the grass. And then to the right, behind the wonderful pathway that your volunteers have put together, behind there's another green space with a bench in there. And it's a lovely space. And what I was thinking about, as I said, before we came on air, that I'm in the entertainment business, and I looked at it and thought, wouldn't it be a great space to have an event, to put an event on there, and you could a free local community event, and you could kind of like a sort of not a maintenance day, but an open day, and advertise it and bring everybody in.
I couldn't agree with you more, Graham. You must have read my mind, because in 2010, we had a fete. Well, going back to 2000, we had a fete exactly where you described at that glade. It was sort of an opening ceremony. We had the mayor and we had various dignitaries come along. And then in 2010, we had another fete. We had all the traditional things. We had Punch and Judy, we had coconut shies, we had tug of war. I think we had some paste painting. We had a bar. We had all sorts of things. And it was really just to celebrate. It wasn't for two reasons. It was to celebrate 10 years of the green, and also to make people aware, and more so to make aware. It wasn't necessarily to raise funds. We've been given a donation that was to cover the cost of the fete itself. And we had planned in 2020, last year, to have another fete for 20 years. Because of the dreaded COVID, we had to cancel all of that, and we rescheduled it for this September to celebrate 21 years of the green. But we've now decided not to go do that. So
sounds like sounds like a brilliant project, Mark, and I wish you good luck, and hopefully that will come off. Do let me know, by the way, if that is happening, and I'll pop along and bring a camera and maybe do a little piece for the show. That's one of the other things I'm hoping to do, is kind of like become a bit of a roving reporter. Now, one thing I want to say is that we have a bit of a fan on channel KT4, and that's your local borough councillor and also your county councillor, which is Stephen McCormack, and he's actually the borough councillor for the ward in which the green is in. He's just sent a little note, and technology now allows me to put his comment up on the screen. Here it is. This is from Stephen McCormack. Afternoon, Graham. Another great local interest piece close to me and in my ward. Great work the volunteers do. Steve, thanks very much indeed for the comment, and thanks very much for supporting not only Channel KT4, but today's supporting the wonderful work of the Millennium Trust. Thank you very much. Isn't that clever technology?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Now, Mark, we have talked about some of the wildlife that's there, but I'd like to kind of expand on this. And I picked up from your website some great pictures, and this is about the pond. So let's have a look at these pictures first of all. That's populating the pond and the fish. So can you expand on the variety of species that are actually in the pond?
Well, as you said, we have goldfish and carp, which are related to the same family, but there's plenty of frogs and also toads that we've learnt over the last few months. No sign of any newts. We had that checked before we had the pond cleaned out, and this is in fact where fish are being reintroduced back into the pond once it had been refurbished. But you'll see there's moorhens there. There's the ducks there on the moorhen on the pond that breed very happily and very successfully, but always being challenged by the local foxes, unfortunately, who rather like a young duckling, I'm afraid. That's the way life is. It's nature for you. But also you'll find on and around there, see there's dragonflies. There's obviously there's tadpoles and frogs. There's also further around is with foxes in abundance. There's squirrels in abundance. There's also a badger set on the edge of the green, which is I'd love to watch it very quietly. There's roe deer, which we see on the green very occasionally. And there's an abundance of bird life, various birds, from the goldcrest, which those that know anything about birds is the smallest bird in Europe, through to the wren, robins, the song thrushes, blackbirds, blue tits, grey tits, you name it. There's just a plethora of all types. Woodpeckers, greenland, greater spotted.
Oh, brilliant. Here's another set of pictures here. And because if you noticed on that little film that I did, I was very fortunate to get the heron in flight, which was really good. And so some lovely pictures here.
Yeah, that's the moorhen chick at the top there, and the duck at the bottom, and obviously the moorhen, yes.
Yeah, lovely pictures. It does, it's lovely to see the wildlife up close and personal, if I dare say. Now, we've talked about your volunteers and all the great, wonderful work they do, but you also have a board of trustees. So how can someone become a trustee of the Woodcote Millennium Green Trust, Mark?
Right, when we have a vacancy, there's about 8 trustees who help run the trust. We don't really need any more, but usually any one of them has a certain expertise. So if whether a lawyer, an accountant, or a marketing person, digital marketing agency person, a project manager type, all these vacancies are on the trust at certain times. If someone wants to become a trustee, we advertise the role, it's not a job at all, the role as a trustee in the local newsletter, which goes out twice a year. We advertise it on the website. We advertise it through word of mouth. So again, if anyone wants to become a trustee, whether now or in the future, they can go to our website, contact us directly via our email and make their wishes known. And then when a vacancy comes up, we will certainly consider them with open arms.
I think that's really good. I mean, because obviously the trustees, they're there to to manage the trust and to give all the right support and help for your volunteers, I would assume.
Entirely right. That's exactly how it works. Yes.
Yeah, I'm on a few trusts myself, so I do fully understand that. Mark, look, I don't know where the time's gone, but it's been absolutely a great pleasure talking to you about the Woodcote Millennium Green Trust and all the fabulous work that both the trustees and volunteers do to keep the green in tip-top condition, so that not only local residents but also wonderful NHS staff can continue to enjoy this wonderful, relaxing space. And I hope they can do that for many years to come. Thank you, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mark Swan.
Thank you, Graham. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure entirely. It's been great to see you. And this is Graham Jones on Channel KT4. Join me next Tuesday at 12:30. Until then, stay safe and enjoy the sunshine. Bye now.